Thanks for listening to the Swearing In podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In podcast starts right now.
All right, listen up. Welcome to all of you out there, and especially welcome to my brothers and sisters in service. This is the Swearing In Podcast, and I am your host, Marty Smith. Joining me on the podcast is former Navy Petty Officer First Class, Mike Asay. Mike grew up in Parker, Colorado, and graduated high school in 2006. After a semester of college and a construction job, he joined the Navy. In 2009, he attended boot camp at Great Lakes Naval Training Center in Illinois. He was selected to be a Navy diver and attended dive school in Panama City, Florida in 2010. His first assignment was to Guam with the Special Warfare Unit 1. After that, he was assigned to Bangor, Washington. Mike then left active duty in January 2017. So there's your pre-brief. Now let's get on with the interview.
So joining me today is Navy Petty Officer First Class, Mike Asay.
Yep.
All right, very good.
That's it.
Mike, thanks for doing the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you had a hell of a day today. So, but you got in the Navy. How long did you spend in the Navy?
7 years.
7 years. But let's go back before that time. Where'd you grow up at?
Parker, Colorado.
You grew up in Parker?
Yep.
No kidding.
I'm from Stonegate, right by Chaparral.
Oh man, I live right. I was in Clark Farms, right across the way. So, when did you first start thinking about the military?
So I started thinking about the military, when I was like 15. I saw Black Hawk Down and was like, oh, it'd be cool to be a helicopter pilot, and then
that'd be badass.
I even contacted the Army and they're like, hey, you're too young, but keep us in mind or whatever, for when you get a little older and so then I was finishing high school up.
Well, wait, this just come? It couldn't just come from a movie. It just come out of the blue. I mean, it was
kind of.
Was your dad in? Or
I did. My grandpa was in I think he was at the Marines first, and then he got hurt.
Oh yeah.
And then switched over to the Marines. No, the Air Force. Sorry, I said the Marines first. He was in the Marines first, and then he went to the Air Force.
Oh.
And then he got medically retired. But that was a long time ago. And then I had an uncle that was in the Navy, and we actually went out. How old was I? I must have been almost 10, around 10.
Yeah.
We went out there, and that was back when he was an operations specialist. So that was back in the day.
Yeah.
He took us out on the piers, like we were walking down by the ships. You can't do that no more.
Oh, you can't. Yeah. I guess no more open base.
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
So it's kind of funny. I think when we were walking out there, I don't really remember too much, but I think I remember seeing some like divers in the water, and it just never like clicked,
Yeah.
Of anything. But I was like, oh, that's kind of neat, But we were just kind of looking at the ships, they were just kind of all lined up there at the port.
It's pretty awesome. Those are big ships, right?
Yeah. So, but he never really talked to me. He was stationed in Coronado, in California, and San Diego, and while we were out here, so we didn't really talk too much until he got out. And then
did your dad push you? Your parents push you at all?
Nope, they didn't actually. So,
how about when you're a senior year?
I was
going to go to college, or
no? I wasn't gonna. Oh, I did go to college for a semester, but I was kind of just like hanging out, partying with friends, just kind of being a teenager,
Right.
And
right.
Well, then 2008 happened, and I lost my job. I got laid off.
Oh, you mean all the housing market,
Yeah.
the downturn, and all that shit?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you got laid off.
Yeah, so I was doing commercial.
Oh no, wait. When did you graduate high school?
2006.
Okay.
So it was a couple years later. It's not like it
Yeah.
was that long after. But I was doing commercial drywall, framing and drywall.
Yeah, but that market all dried up, right?
Yeah, everything crashed. So I got laid off because I was technically an apprentice, and they were like, oh, we can't use this kid. So I was actually I was going to school at ITT Tech at the time.
Okay.
And I was filling out a temporary, I was going to try and get a temp job what was it, the Big Lots? It's not a Big Lots anymore, but over there in Parker, like off of Parker Road at Main Street.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's something else now. But
Planet
that's where I was
Fitness or
applying at.
something,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I was applying in there, and this Navy guy walked by me, and he stopped because I looked up and saw him, and he stopped, and he turned around. And he's like, "Hey, you looking for a job?" And I was like, I've always thought about kind of the military, And he's like, "Well, why don't you come talk to me?" And I was like, "Okay,
A
sure."
chance meeting in a big lot.
Yeah.
Really?
While I was filling out an application.
Yeah.
And so I went and talked to him, and I asked a bunch of questions, because I was, graduated high school 17, 18. So I was probably 19, 20 years old,
Yeah.
it was a couple years later. So,
Yeah.
and he was excited because usually he doesn't get like people that like interact with him a lot, because I wanted to make sure if I was going to join the Navy, it was going to be something that I really wanted to do.
Sure.
So I was just trying to cover all my bases.
He was in uniform in big lots?
Yeah, I don't know why he was going into big lots, but he was a recruiter, so I think that's why he was wearing his uniform. But I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just happenstance,
Yeah, yeah. Wow, that's wild.
So then I ended up bringing my uncle. I was like, hey, I had an uncle in the Navy. I just want to make sure you're not putting a bunch of BS into me.
Yeah.
And so he was like, yeah, that's fine. So he came, and me and my uncle and him sat down, and we all talked. And Uncle,
Oh, that's cool.
he was like, yeah. He was like, oh yeah. And he's like, he's not really lying to you at all. So
Yeah.
if it's something you want to do, I'd trust him. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Your parents all for that when you
Yeah.
went back and told them? So then, okay, so it wasn't just one meeting. I'm sure you went back a few times. Right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So when did you get to discussing like, okay, what can I do in the Navy?
So that kind of came up with, cause he wanted me to take the ASVAB because it'd been
Yeah.
a couple years. So you have to take the ASVAB.
Of course.
So I went, and it was October. I remember it was a week before Halloween. It was the 24th, 23rd, something like that. So I went and took the ASVAB, and I remember taking it junior year, and I didn't really do that great. But
you weren't probably paying attention to.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah.
And, then being in the workforce and then going to school at the time, I did a lot of math, and I've always been really good at math and, doing
Yeah.
construction, commercial.
Practical math.
Yeah, commercial framing, I got a lot of mechanical skills and I built up a lot of knowledge on that kind of stuff. So then when I took the ASVAB, I ended up getting like an 89 on it. And,
Oh, nice.
And so one of the recruiters was like, man, you were 8 points short of automatically qualifying for the nuke program. And I was like, well, I don't know about doing that, but so I initially picked FCET, the contract, which is a fire controlman or electronics technician.
Okay.
So the electronics technicians deal with like radios and stuff, and then the fire.
You'll be employed forever if you get that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've worked with some of those guys, and I wouldn't want that job. Mm-mm.
I hear you.
And
but that's what they all these guys need,
Yep. And then the fire controlmen get to when you see ships shooting missiles. Those are the fire controlmen that take care of those systems, and then they're the ones that are like pressing the buttons.
Oh, all right. So, my first thought was fireman.
No, that's.
But fire control, now that makes sense.
Yep. So that's So that's what I signed up as, and that was October 2008.
Wow.
It was the 24th. I remember that it was on the paperwork, and
did you get a guaranteed job? Or what the contract when you signed?
Yeah,
the contract?
it was that's what it said. It was like it was like a $25,000 bonus, and then it said the FCET thing, and
you going in right away? Did you have a delay?
No, I was in the delayed entry program. So then I read a book called Robert's Ridge, which is a SEAL book, and then
that sounds familiar. Seems like
it's about a SEAL
ago.
team at the very start of the Afghan war that went in, and their Chinook got shot, and the machine gunner fell out. And this an Air Force pararescueman jumped down after him. It was Neil Roberts was the guy that fell out of the helicopter. And then this dude Chapman jumped down, and there's videos you can find of him fighting these guys.
I know that story, and now I can't
Chapman actually just got the Medal of Honor, I think, a year or two ago. They posthumously,
really?
They gave it to him.
That's awesome.
So I read that book, and then I read Lone Survivor, and I was like, well, screw shooting missiles off of ships. I'm gonna go kill some terrorists.
Yeah, but both of those are like...
Yeah, but I wanted to do something cool,
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
I was like, so then I started training, and when I first joined the Navy, because I was just a skinny 140-pound kid, and but then when I read those books, I was like, and when I first joined, I did start to run a little bit because I was like,
how long was your delay for? Your delay in enlistment?
So I was in the delayed entry program for over a year.
Whoa, because they didn't have school slots, or?
Yeah, because the way they were doing it at the time, all the guys. So the reason it was so long is because I ended up getting a special warfare combatant craft crewman contract.
Wow.
So because
You kind of left that part out. That's pretty big.
yeah, so it kind of just happened like that. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
my first mile and a half I ran when I first joined was 12 and a half minutes. I read those books and I was like, all right, I got to start training every day. So I did. I was working out every day.
Were you an athlete in high school or anything?
Nope.
Like that?
I was a skinny
Did you
nerd.
run or anything like that?
Nope.
This is all just out of the blue. You're like,
100, yeah.
I better go get my ass in shape.
Yeah, 140-pound kid. I started taking Cyto Gainer. I jumped up to like 150. I was working out 6 days a week.
Wow.
Sometimes 7 days a week, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
Just because I had nothing to do. I actually ended up stopping going to school because I was working full time and I was either go to school or work out to go to the Navy, and I was going to the Navy no matter what. So I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, school's
hindsight, I should have probably just like quit my job and finished school to at least get the piece of paper because I was like 6 months from graduating. But it was ITT Tech. Doesn't really matter anymore. So whatever. So I started training every day. And it was a lot of work. Like so we had to take a physical screening test to even try and get into the special programs. And that consists of a 500-yard swim, 10-minute rest, and then it's 2 minutes of push-ups, 2-minute rest, 2 minutes of sit-ups, 2 minutes of rest, max number of pull-ups, and then there's a 10-minute rest, and then a mile and a half run. Yeah. And there's certain times and scores that you have to hit to qualify for the programs. Obviously for SEAL, you had to swim your mile. It was a 500-yard swim. You had to swim it in like 12 and a half minutes or faster. Diver and EOD were 14 minutes. You had to swim breaststroke or side stroke. You couldn't do like freestyle or anything. Those are the two strokes you had to do.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Why do they do that?
Because that's they use the combatant swimmer side stroke, so it's a little different from like the American side stroke. Your head's under the water instead of like keeping it out. And that's just what they use. In buds to train, because when you're swimming for miles, that you do the side stroke because you can conserve energy. You can tie it back to you that floats, and you can swim for a long time with it. It saves a lot of energy. It's a really,
I had no idea.
Yeah. When you're trying to sneak up on a beach, you're not going to be freestyling to the beach.
Well, no, true,
so
true.
It allows you to kind of mirror the waves too a little bit too. Like the way they're coming into it, so.
What is it called again? What's that stroke called again?
The combatant side stroke.
Combatant side stroke.
Yeah,
okay.
That's it.
All right.
So my first swim was 20 minutes long, so I had a lot of work to do.
Well, have you ever done that stroke?
Yeah, no, I'd never done it ever. I didn't swim really growing up. I'd been to the pool a bunch, but we were just had kids having fun, not swimming or nothing. So.
But it's a mark on the wall. Now you know what you got to do.
Yeah, so I started training, and then one of the other guys that was there, he was younger. He had just graduated high school, so he was a few years younger than me, but he wanted to, he was working out. So we would go work out, and my recruiter was down in Castle Rock. So I would drive down to Castle Rock every day, and we would work out at the pool there, at the old pool. Like I say,
really?
Community centers now.
Yeah.
We would work out the first one, and we would, I'd be there from, 3 or 4 hours usually, every night.
Wow.
So maybe not Fridays, at least.
Man, you were motivated.
Yeah. And I got in really good shape.
Yeah.
So then we did this one PST, I think maybe it was a few weeks, a month later, maybe. I didn't get quite the SEAL scores, but I qualified for the SWIC program. So I got that. And
the SWIC is
the Special Warfare Combat Craft Crewman. Yeah.
Okay.
So I qualified for that. And the recruiter was like, well, if you make the stats for the SEAL, we can just, sign you over to that contract or whatever. And then the ship date for the SWIC program was like January, and that's why it was like so far out. And then they just kept getting pushed. So what they were doing at the time with the Navy is all the guys going into like diver or EOD or SEAL or SWIC or air rescue swimmer, they were putting them in their own special divisions in boot camp. So like we were all together, and
so you just transitioned to the school.
Yeah, together. So we would all PT as a group in the morning as our division, and then we'd go to breakfast and do our thing, and then we PT in the afternoon like everyone else would or whatever, So that's why they were doing it. They don't do that now. Now they kind of mingle everybody.
Oh, okay.
Because I guess it wasn't fair, to the other divisions, because our division crushed everything.
I would imagine, yeah.
And
you got a whole bunch of motivated individuals who are now in good shape.
Oh yeah. And I don't know. Some of them were okay, but the vast majority of people were in. I mean, I guess everybody was in better shape than the average person joining the Navy.
Yeah. The guy who's got the cook contract is not probably going to work as hard as you guys.
Yeah, that's true. But still, even in our little group, there was guys that could kick ass and take names all work out long, and some guys that just kind of couldn't, and struggled. And so, but when I was training in the delayed entry program, I even though I had the SWIT contract, because I thought they were cool. They're the SWIT guys. They've got fast boats, shallow water river boats, and they have machine guns on them. The riverine craft. They got the miniguns on them and stuff. So I was like, this is still kind of cool.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Yeah.
And I didn't know much about EOD or diving. I had one of my special warfare recruiters was a SEAL, an ex-SEAL, and then the other guy was he was just a submariner diver. So that's a little different. He was a scuba diver.
Oh, okay.
They're technically divers, but they're not as good as deep sea divers.
Yeah.
Their school's only like 1 month long, and you just have to be in okay shape to go through that. Usually, it's guys that are on the submarines because they use them to do security swims on the subs. If there's not divers there to do it. But anyways,
when did you go off to basic then?
So I left for basic training November 5th, 2009. So it was
November.
So it was
bless.
almost 13 months into the lead entry program.
Was that driving you nuts there the last couple of months? Had to be, right?
Not really. I mean, I was working out, every day. I'd go do PSTs. I was helping my recruiters run PSTs. I would usually lead.
And what's PST?
The physical screening test.
Oh, okay.
So I would help him out.
Oh,
with
so you
those.
were helping him.
Yeah, and then I would run the special. We had a reserve SWIT guy that would train with us, and then another guy that I think he'd got hurt in the Navy and he'd got out, or something happened and he got out of the Navy. So I would train with these two guys, and the one dude, Dave was his name, the guy that got out previously. He was in shape and he was fun to work out. Like I remember one time I'd worked all day and I was down in Denver. He lived down in Denver off like 12th and Colorado. I met him at his apartment complex. So we went for like a 14-mile run. We didn't really mean to do that, but it just kind of happened.
You just felt good
and
just kept going. And
I didn't drink water like all day. And by the time we were coming up downtown Denver, I remember I was like, dude, I got to get water. And I like ran to the Platte and I was like shoveling water, And he was like, I don't know if you should drink that. And I was like, dude, I need something. Like I'm going to risk getting sick, but I need water. You know? Like that's better than nothing.
What you were doing before really kind of softened the blow of basic, right? I mean, it's different when somebody's yelling in your face, but still, you've been around military now, working out with these guys and running some of those. Yeah,
this dude Dave, who there were some workouts that I did with him where he was, like I said, he was in really good shape, and there was a couple workouts that I did with him there. He was like, I was like beating him, and he's like, man, I've never had anybody like beat me on these workouts. And I'm like, well, here I am, Dave. And
good.
And
it's a good challenge.
So it was cool.
So all Navy basic is up at
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
So you're there in November. Oh God, that had to be bitter up there.
It was cold.
Jesus.
It was cold.
Now I was reading some. One of the things I had to ask you about Navy basic. If I draw a parallel to Army basic, all Army guys are trained as infantrymen, right? That's your common set of skills. But as I was watching some of the stuff on Navy basic, you guys are all trained as if you're going to the fleet.
Yep.
So you're trained as if you're going to be on a ship.
Yep.
Right. And so you got to go through all the rope tying, all the language, all that stuff.
Yep.
As if you're going to serve on the ship. What was surprising to me, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, is that they do a round of like firefighting.
Yes. Yep. Everybody's a trained firefighter in the Navy.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Well, when you're on a ship out in the middle of the sea,
you bet it's fire. It's for your own life.
Yeah.
Right.
But everyone will have like their own job, like on the crew, So like we had, one guy was like shouting orders, like, well, that was his job, and then you had hose handlers and.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Navy. Everybody finds a spot somewhere,
And what do you get? You qualify on a 9mm?
Yes, we did 9mm, and then we just shot the shotgun for familiarization is all we did.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
That's all we did. So like I said, I was in a special division when I got to boot camp, so we were kind of different because we would go work out. We'd have to wake up at 4:30 every morning and go do PT with the dive motivators, which was a bunch of like SEALs or SWICs or divers or EOD guys that would run like the training programs, or people that wanted, if you were in a normal division and wanted to go into a special program, then you would go to them and take the physical screening test, and then they would put you in our division if you qualified. I think we had one dude the entire time at boot camp like join our division. And
really?
and he didn't make it through dive school. So we had our RDCs were always trying to make us laugh. Just so we could do push-ups.
So you can get in trouble? Yeah.
Yeah, but we had kind of fun with it, I don't know. It was fun.
Well, and you were a little bit older. You're not 17, 18
I wasn't
coming
17
in.
or 18, yeah.
It's not the first time you've been away from home, that kind of stuff.
Well, actually, it was. The first time I ever flew on a plane was to boot camp.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you culminate? What's the culmination exercise? Battle stations?
Yeah.
I
think they still do it, but yeah, that's what we did. Yeah, we were up.
And you go on a mock-up, right?
Yeah, it was all night long, they do a bunch of different stations.
A mock-up of a ship, I should say, for whoever's listening.
Yep,
right?
It's, so you, stand to watch. There's a bunch of other stuff. I remember they had, you have to, move these fake missiles from one compartment to another because the compartment's flooding. And
oh, yeah.
There's a bunch of, stuff that you do.
You got to problem solve through it. And
then, work as a team, essentially, is what you're trying to do. And then once we were done with that, we had to go back to the barracks and change because we were graduating that morning. So,
did anybody? Well, I guess there's no way to. What did you get assessed on it? I mean,
yeah, we got assessed. Everybody, yeah. We my group
at that point it's just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there's some things that could definitely you could fail, if you're carrying. So we had to carry a mannequin. I think it was 160-pound mannequin on a stretcher. But you have to carry him a certain way, otherwise you fail the assignment.
Really?
You can't. There's a specific way you got to carry him kind of through the corridor, the passageways on the.
I see.
Stuff,
I see. Yeah.
And
I tell you, the first time I did that stretcher carry, I never realized how dead weight is. I mean, it's heavy.
Yeah, and it's awkward sometimes too, depending on where you're at. And especially if you got to go through bulkheads that are on the ground and stuff, you got to figure out how to maneuver this person to get them through safely, without dropping them or hitting the head or anything, So
kind of academic at that point, unless you really screw it up.
Yeah.
Right. So they're going to graduate you.
Mm-hmm.
You had no sleep, right? They keep you awake.
Yeah, you're supposed to stay awake, the whole day before you go to battle stations, and then all night, and then we had to graduate the next morning. So we didn't get to go to sleep really for
6 weeks.
A little bit.
Basic is?
So
roughly
8.
I don't know if it was different for you guys.
It was 8 weeks, but we were there for 10. So I got there on November 5th, and then we hit.
Oh, you did Christmas Day.
We hit Veterans Day. We hit Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's why you get extended.
We hit Christmas.
That's
and we
right.
hit New Year's.
All the holidays.
Yeah. It was pretty. So Thanksgiving was fun. We got to. I think we were the first ones to eat dinner that night. But I remember because I would wake up. I don't know how, but I was able to wake up at 2:00 every morning. And I'd shave and do my morning routine.
Oh yeah.
And then everyone else would win. Then I'd go back to sleep for 2.5 hours. We'd wake up. The RDCs would come in. We wake up at 4:30, and then there was 60 guys trying to shave in the morning. So I got on a little routine. So usually by the end of the day, sometime I'd have a little teeny scruff. I still shaved every day, but on Thanksgiving, one of the RDCs, Petty Officer Ball, that was his name. He was a postal clerk. He came up and he was like, "Oh, it looks like you didn't shave there, huh, AC?" And I was like, "Well, I did." And he's like, "Well, you got some scruff." And then he's like lines everybody up, and he found 3 or 4 other guys that looked like they didn't shave, and he was like, "All right, we're gonna PT you." And he tried putting on some rap music or something, and I didn't want to listen to his music because I don't really like rap.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Well, let's sing this Navy song or Navy cadence." And he was like, "Yeah, that's a good idea." So we did that, and everyone else looked at me like I was the jackass, And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to listen to whatever this guy has. I'd rather sing the Navy song." But then we got to go eat turkey. We were the first ones to eat.
Oh, really?
At the galley. And so turkey, freaking eggnog, it was awesome. Christmas time was quite the opposite. We were all planning a joke on our RDCs. We were going to drink eggnog and mix and then drink 7-Up and have it curdle, so we were all just going to get sick, but for fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they got wind of that or if there was other stuff that was in play that we didn't know about.
Yeah.
But we were the last ones to eat on Christmas, and there was nothing left.
Because they heard of that?
I think they heard what we were planning on doing. They're like, "Nope, screw these guys." So
the power dynamics always fun, right?
But we had, one of the guys, his dad was a former SEAL, so his dad would send us cookies every night. And so we got to eat one time. Junius was our main RDC, and he was cool. He was always trying to make you laugh, and
that's cool.
it was fun having him because he called me Mouse because I got big ears, and that was his nickname for me.
All right.
So, but I remember he'd yell at a couple kids. This one time, this kid was cleaning the head down. We were down waiting in line for the galley, for I think it was like dinner or something.
Yeah.
And this kid was talking, and he was from another division, but you weren't supposed to talk while you're cleaning it. And he came up and he's like, "Hey, you're coming up to our compartment." So, we get up to our compartment after dinner or whatever, and we all get at attention, like at the end of our racks, whatever. And he brings this kid in the center of the room, and he's like, "You want me to beat these guys for you, doing what you're not supposed to be doing?" And this kid's like, "No, petty officer."
Yeah.
And, all of us were just like, yes, finally, maybe we could do like 10 push-ups or something. We were just like excited, and then this dude, Junius, looks at him. He's like, "You want a cookie?" And this kid's like, "Oh, I'm not allowed to eat dessert, petty officer." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "It's a cookie, not a dessert." He's like, "Get the fuck out of here." And, sent him on his merry way.
Yeah.
But, oh my God, it was so hard not to laugh.
You got to be just shaking.
And that's all he would try to do. We'd be
right?
like in formation. He would just try and make you laugh. And he was good at it too,
Really? Guys who can do that on purpose, they're gold, man. They help you get through. Yeah.
It was.
You almost kind of look forward to seeing them.
Yeah. I wish I could have run into him like in the fleet later on. It would have been kind of neat.
Yeah. Right.
But it's he was a machinist mate, and I think he made chief after we graduated.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Good for him.
He was probably off doing something else, but.
So you get out of there what? February?
It was January, the first week of January.
2010.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, Army always goes to AIT where they go learn their job. Yep. Air Force goes to tech school. So you're going to, and where was your school at?
So I had the SWIC contract, but they changed the vision requirements for the SWIC school to 20/70 and your worst eye. And when I was in the medical processing in the beginning, I was 20/100 in one eye and 20/150 in the other eye, which still qualified for diver because it was 20, I think, 200 correctable to 20/20 for diver and EOD. Okay. And so I had a doctor at the very beginning of boot camp go, "You're disqualified from SWIC." And I should have been grandfathered in, but he was like, "I don't really give a shit about that."
Jesus.
So I spent a lot of boot camp kind of by myself. Like if the division was out doing like classroom training, I was over by myself, like with the dive motivators trying to get an EOD contract because I didn't know much about Navy diving.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to blow shit up. So I was trying to go EOD. And so I was trying to do that. And week 5 finally came. And that's when you actually like sign your contract and you're in the Navy after that. And they're like, "Hey, we can give you dive school or you can go to the fleet." And I was like, man, I kicked my own ass for over a year.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll go to dive school.
Good for you.
So it worked out. Being
absolutely.
a diver was way cooler than being a SWIC guy.
Was it really?
Oh yeah.
Why do you think so?
I worked with those guys, and a lot of them are kind of, I don't know. They thought they were better than everyone else because they were special warfare. Not everybody, not all of them were like that, but a lot of them they like look down on me, or they'd ask me for favors and want nothing in return. And I'm like, you guys can't, like, I'm Navy Special Operations too, bro. Like, just because you get more money doesn't make you better than me.
Why do they get more money?
Because they're special warfare. They're kind of attached with the SEALs. And
divers aren't considered special?
No, so you got Naval Special Operations, which is EOD and diving.
Yeah.
And then Naval Special Warfare, which is the SEALs and the SWIC guys. So they get more money because they're out doing, more kind of direct counterterrorism or direct, more direct action stuff. Whereas, EOD and diving is special.
Yeah, there's got to be some hazard pay in there, right?
There is.
Oh, okay.
But I've met some SWIC guys that couldn't make it through dive school that made it through SWIC school. So a lot of them were kind of a lot of them were just kind of douchebags. Really, to me, at least to me, in my experience,
Fair enough.
I'm not saying every single one of them's like that.
Hey, we're here for your experience today.
But I worked with a bunch of SEALs that were like that too.
Well, SEALs, Rangers.
But I say the same. They probably talk shit about me too. I say the same stuff about being the diver was better.
I can't see you being a real wallflower. You might speak your mind just a little bit. So I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
So where do you go? Where's the school at?
So after boot camp, we went to dive prep first, and all the other guys, the SEALs and the SWIC guys and the EOD guys, we all went to the other side of Great Lakes, which is, there's a lot of A schools there, but we all went to prep first. So that's where they started weeding people out. So we went to dive prep. So we had to do some, they called it BEX. It was basic engineering stuff. So one of the things we had to do is we went into a room that was flooding, and we had to take some dunnage and stuff and block the hole and try and stop it. And real combat control. That's what I think it's think that's what it's called. I don't know. I'd have to look it up again. But anyways, yeah, plugging holes in walls and stuff.
BECC.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay.
I bet if I Googled it, I could find it.
That's kind of cool. The problem.
So we were doing that. We didn't really do a whole lot of like diving physics stuff. You know, we would work out in the morning and then we do all this basic engineering stuff like in the afternoon or vice versa. You know, we'd do one or the other because there was another dive.
Where were you doing this at?
Yeah, Great Lakes.
Oh, okay.
So we'd be up by like by where all the they call them ships, but they're just like dorm buildings. So that's where we did our like classroom stuff, and then we'd have to go all the way to the other side of the base where the corpsman school was at to go to the pool, and that was where our pool was at. We'd go work out down there for like 4 hours at a time.
Did they run you?
Oh yeah, we ran.
There and back?
Yeah, there was a couple times they wanted to whoop our ass. One of the guys, Stampley, I think this was this time. Stampley thought he was friends with this guy that was in our boot camp division that was going to Bud's prep, and so Stampley was going to dive school, he was in dive prep with us. He was supposed to go to dive school, and he saw this dude walk out of McDonald's with like a strawberry shake, and he thought he was friends with him, but I don't think they were really friends. But he went to go like fake kick or like karate kick him or something, and he kicked this dude's like milkshake out of his hand. So the guy punched him and gave him like a Harry Potter scar, kind of like a scar right on his right eye. And the dude that was in the Buds prep, he didn't get in any trouble, you know, because the Navy, you know, they investigated, and he's like, well, that was self-defense, you know, because the dude tried to kick him first. So Stampley got kicked out of dive prep for kicking a milkshake out of somebody's hand. There was another time, this other dude, Luna, he was a little fat turd, literally like a ball. He got on restriction, and he wasn't supposed to leave base, but he went out in town, like met this chick that was going to like cook school, and then she like came back and said that he tried to like rope her, or like I don't want to use the word rape. I don't think that happened, but sexual misconduct happened, harassment, what have you. So he got kicked out, and then we got our shit pushed in. And I think this time, like I remember one time we were getting our shit pushed in, and there was like 2 feet of snow on the ground because it's February. You know, we were in dive prep from January to the end of February. Yeah. Still in Chicago. 2 feet of snow on the ground, and they lined us all up on the pool, and there was 30 of us that was in dive prep.
Outdoor pool?
No, it was an indoor pool. But they had all the doors open, and they were filling up buckets of water. And so what we had to do is we were lined up around the pool edge, and so we had a saying, you know, he'd say, so like for me, for example, if it was my turn, I'd say I was, you know, Seaman AC has the side, and then everybody would repeat, you know, Seaman AC has the side, and then you'd say we were doing flutter kicks. So I'd say, you know, our next exercise is 4 count flutter kicks, and then we'd say hoo-yah flutter kicks, and then we'd say like, I'd say like, are you ready? And then we had a motivational saying that the rest of the class would say, and then you would start. Well, while you were counting, one of the instructors was sitting there spraying you with a hose, while the other one was like dumping water on you, and then they'd be spraying the rest of the class. And the object of this whole evolution was to every person had to say the saying without messing up, and we had to go down and back. And if somebody messed up, then you had to start over. And I remember after a couple hours, it was so cold. Our instructor was a corpsman. He was a dive medical technician. So he was like, "You guys got to jump in the pool." We had to like sit in the pool for like 20 to 30 minutes, to warm back up before we got back out and started doing it again. You know, and because we were going to dive school, we had to have water in our face masks the entire time. If you didn't have water in your face mask, then you were wrong. So it was kind of
that's some creative hazing. That's good stuff.
Yeah, man. It was.
The group punishments, nothing like
took us like 3 hours.
Yeah,
to do
did it really?
Oh yeah. Usually when we were getting our asses kicked, it was they would go until somebody quit, but not that time. We had to go all the way back.
So this is all prep, right?
Yeah, that was dive prep. So and then towards the end of prep, we did these things called IWPs, or in water procedures. So it's a bunch of little things like one of the things. So it's an 8-foot pool. It's not super deep.
Yeah.
So like I said, there was about 30 guys in our dive prep class. Some of them were fleet returnees. Some of them, you know, most of us weren't. We went to boot camp together, and so like one of the IWPs is they would drop a mask and a snorkel at the bottom of the pool, and you had to, you know, to get a breath, dive down, put it on, and come up, and without breaking the water, you had to clear the mask and the snorkel. And you got 3 tries to do it.
How do you clear the mask without taking
the mask? You press up
off?
On the top of it and blow through your nose.
Okay.
So you'd want to clear the snorkel first because that takes more air.
Yeah.
And then the mask is pretty easy. It doesn't take a whole lot of air.
Oh, the water will just come out the side?
Yeah, if you press it like this and you blow out the nose, it opens the bottom and it'll just drain.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, but you got 3 tries. I passed on my first try because it was an 8-foot pool. It's not like you're diving down 20 feet and coming up. But you'd be surprised how many people failed even after 3 tries.
Well, I guess that's why they do it.
It would freak them out. And then if you didn't pass the first day on that, the next thing was knot tying. So they put a set of scuba jugs at the bottom of the pool, and you had to get on a breath hold. You had to go down and tie a square knot, and then you were allowed to come up and get another breath, and then you had to go down and tie a bowline knot. And you had 3 tries to do each one.
Yeah.
And if you passed the mask clearing, then you got to wear a mask to tie the knot. If you didn't, then you could still do it the first day. You had to redo the mask clearing the next day, but then you weren't allowed to use the mask for the knot tying the first day.
Damn.
And those 2 exercises, we lost like 15 people. Like that,
Really?
that like cleared our dive class just on mask clearing and knot tying. Freaks people out.
Wow.
That's why they do it at prep, is because it's a lot closer to a bunch of other, A schools, so they can get you out and get you to another program or whatever instead of spending money to fly you down. Because dive school was in Panama City Beach, Florida.
Oh.
It's a lot cheaper for the Navy to have you quit.
Yeah, do that weeding out up there.
Yep.
You get weeded out. Now you're going down to Panama City, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how long is that dive school?
So we got to dive school at the beginning of March, and we graduated in the middle of July. So about a little more than 4 months. So it was 6 months about total training time from dive prep and dive school.
God, Panama City, shit.
Yeah, we showed up and spring break was there. So the whole month of March was spring break. You go to the beach and just beer pong.
You were 21 by this time. Right?
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
But did they even let you go?
21, yes.
Did they even let you go? Off base or anything like that?
Yeah, we could go party on the weekends and stuff. There was a Hooters across the street from the dive school. We gave our class leader shit because one of the waitresses there was missing some teeth, but he was like infatuated with her, I guess. So we always gave him shit.
Well, Panama City's a beautiful place.
Yeah,
but it's also
very
not
muggy.
the most beautiful people place.
Yeah, nope.
So you were fully qualified in what when you got?
So by the time, dive school consisted of, we did start with dive physics, 2 weeks of dive physics, and then we go into dive medicine, and then we started practicing on. We had to sit in the dive tank with some scuba regulators, just to make sure, with water a few feet high or whatever, and then they just want to make sure you weren't going to freak out like under the water or something.
Okay.
And then we kind of.
Did you have anybody do that?
Nah. We did do a pressure test when we got there first, and so they'll seal the chamber, and there are these big RCF 6500 chambers that we had. Our dive class, we had I think 15 people when we showed up to dive school in our class. So all of us fit in the chamber. They're not small. But they said now when we shut the door and we start pressurizing it, because you got to go down to 60 feet for 10 minutes, and that's the pressure test. If you can't do that, then you're not going to.
Is there water in this tank?
No.
It's just pressure from the air.
Yeah, it's a recompression chamber.
Okay.
So it's usually for diving casualties or any other type of hyperbaric treatment, like if you've got like gangrene or carbon monoxide poisoning, you can use it for all sorts of stuff. It's super cool. There was that's a whole nother story about something related to that. Maybe I should just say it just to get it out of that way.
Yeah, why not?
We can add it later. So while I was on Guam, and there was a pilot that was diving in Palau. He was from Japan, diving in Palau. He got decompression sickness, paralyzed from the neck down.
Oh,
and so they sent him to Guam, TAD, to do treatment table 6s for like a month. And so these guys were doing treatment table 6s, and those are
what's treatment table 6?
It's a specific treatment table. I think it's been a while since I've looked at it, but you go down to 60 feet. Or depth of relief. I think they were just going to 60 feet because it was just a kind of a thing for him, but they were trying to make the bubbles smaller essentially, and then use because at depth the partial pressure of oxygen increases. So
wow.
It's greater. It'd be greater than like 100% oxygen than if you were breathing it like on the surface.
Okay.
So that's why it has extra health benefits, because you're breathing more oxygen essentially.
Yeah.
So it helps stimulate the body with healing and stuff.
Wow.
So they did these treatment table 6s on this guy for a month. And after a month, like I said, this guy was paralyzed from the neck down. After a month, he was able to walk with a cane.
Wow.
So really cool shit. The base CO they put in for Navy Achievement Medals, and the base CO was like, you guys are just doing your job. You don't get shit. But then he would give out Navy Achievement Medals to gate guards, Master at Arms, security forces for standing 1,500 hours of gate duty. And to me, that sounds like they're doing their job.
Well, you know what? That's all services have that in common.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's just, I think the CO just hated divers. But I mean, how cool is it that you get to see something like that?
Yeah.
The guy's
never even heard of.
He's not going to fly ever again. He's obviously going to lose his flying capabilities. You know, but at least he can walk.
He can walk.
It was super cool to kind of watch that.
I wish we had more time to talk about the medical piece of that. But
back at dive school, right? That's what.
Yeah. So what do you qualify for the end of it?
So we graduated dive school. We were qualified in the Mark 21 or the KM37 is what they switched to, which is a hard hat Kirby Morgan diving helmet. It's got a neck dam that you lock into place, and then it has an umbilical hose that attaches to that, and then you can connect an EGS. So if you're diving,
they still have that.
Yeah,
I'm picturing the 1940s guy.
Oh yeah, no, that's not that thing. No, this thing fits around your head. It's got a little like a little mouthpiece, kind of like what pilots would wear. You got your nose dam in there, so you can clear your nose, clear your ears. Put your nose on it and clear your.
Does it have a radio in there?
Yeah, there's microphones in it at the bottom, on the bottom of the little cup thing.
That's
the mouthpiece or the mouth cover or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so and then the microphone's down here, and then the earphones are on the side by your ears,
so you can stay in communication.
Yep, and it's got a comforter in it. You put that on your helmet, so that way it's not banging on your head or nothing.
Oh yeah.
So we had that, and then we had the Mark 20, which was just like a face mask, which was also, you could dive it with scuba, but it uses up a lot of air because it just fills up the whole space in front of your face.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
But we would normally use it on an umbilical. So if you were diving into an enclosed space or something, that's what you would wear because it's a lot less bulky.
Yeah.
And then that thing was kind of neat because you had the bone phone. So the bone phone, you could put anywhere on your body. Normally they had a little sleeve though, or you could just tuck it underneath the harness on your head.
Yeah.
But it would vibrate. So when someone would talk in the microphone, it would vibrate. So that's why it didn't matter where you put it on your body, because when it vibrates, all the bones in your ear and your middle ear will vibrate, and that's how you listen. Because your tympanic membrane vibrates, and it vibrates all that stuff to your inner ear, and that's how you can listen. So you could literally put the bone phone on your leg and still hear someone talk. It's kind of neat. We always just kind of put it up by our ears just because it was easier. That way you could hear what they were saying. Sometimes you lose stuff if it's somewhere else.
The bone phone.
Yep, the bone phone.
That's pretty cool.
So the Mark 20, we were qualified in scuba, obviously. Okay. And then we also dove the Mark 25 or the Draeger, which is what the SEALs will use. It's a rebreather. It's like that little black box that sits on their chest that has two hoses coming up to a mouthpiece. So we were qualified to dive on that.
Okay.
And then the Mark 16 is usually, that's like diving with a supercomputer. That one's also a rebreather, but that one's a transitional rig. So it's I think it's a 0.75 ATA rig when it's on the surface, and you've got oxygen and nitrogen on it, or helium if you're diving deep. And then it's got the scrubber on it, and it's got 3 oxygen sensors on it and battery sensors. You got your little thing on your left here. There was 20 EPs that we had to memorize for this rig, because you wear a face mask for it. It's got these little lights that sit by your right eye that flash red and green at you depending on what's going on. And then once you get down to 33 feet, which is about 1 atmosphere, it transitions to a 1.3 ATA rig, so it'll start pumping more of the diluent into your system. But you can always add stuff if at it. So
I feel like I should be nodding and going, 1.3. Oh, I thought maybe it was 1.35, but you said 1. No.
Yeah, no.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know.
But it's awesome. It's fascinating.
So it's a really cool rig, and the EOD guys use it. There's a non-magnetic version that they use, so if they're doing underwater mine clearing or whatever, it doesn't explode mines. So it's like I said, it's like diving with a super cool.
What exactly is a rebreather?
So you'll have your with the Draeger, and you'll have your gas. It'll either be, depending on what it is. The Draeger will use 100% oxygen, so you don't really dive super deep with that one.
Oh, okay.
Or the Mark 16, you'll have 100% oxygen and either nitrogen, 100% nitrogen, or 100% helium, depending on how deep you're diving. Because nitrogen becomes toxic at a certain depth, and so you swap over to helium to counter the effects of nitrogen narcosis. But what happens when you breathe on the rebreather? So Man, I'm trying to remember the Mark 16. So the Draeger has. I worked on Guam with the SEALs, so I was more familiarized with that one. The Draeger's got a third lung, is what they call it. So your hose, one of your inhalation hose hooks to the third lung, and then that goes up to your mouthpiece, and then the other hose goes from the mouthpiece to the CO2 scrubber, and then the CO2 scrubber connects to the other side of the third lung. So what you would do is you fill up your lung, and you gotta do like a 5-minute breathing session before you start diving the rig, because because you have to clear all the nitrogen from your body, and get all the oxygen in your body. So there's a certain procedure that you have to do that. But a rebreather is no bubbles. So when you breathe, when you exhale, it goes into the scrubber. So the Mark 16 will have the scrubber on it too. It's this big round. It's like this big. It'll go to the scrubber and scrub all the CO2 out of your breathing, your breath or whatever, and then when you breathe back in, it'll suck air. So then you would breathe off of, on the Draeger, you breathe off of the lung essentially. It scrubs the CO2. So then that's how they get the rebreathers. So.
That's so badass to know all that stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It was I like diving the Draeger. It was cool.
Was there
rebreathers are nice because there's no bubbles, so you can like see a lot. If you're in good water, you can see stuff.
Oh, really? Any part of that training give you trouble? Is there any part that you were nervous about?
Yeah, base swims. I was blind. Like I said at the time, I was 20. My vision was kind of shitty.
Okay.
So we had to do 500-yard base swims and then 1,000-yard base swims, and I couldn't really swim in a straight line because it was just in the bay.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to guide off of the quay wall, but I think I ended up just swimming like just like a fish.
You're twice as far as you're supposed to because you're going straight line.
I had to do base swims a bunch of times until I passed. That was kind of what gave me. That was like the hardest part for me.
Huh. Where'd you go for your first assignment then?
So Guam. So I got to pick Guam. I actually picked the Frank Cable first, which was a submarine tender, and then Unit 1 was available, and then it was this dude, the cookie guy, that got the. So the Special Warfare Unit no one picked because it was kind of like a commander where you'd go to kind of like fuck off, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to get out of the country. I joined the Navy. I was sick of my parents at the time. I was like, I'm getting the fuck out.
Send you to Paradise, Guam.
Yeah, that was the only thing overseas. I just wanted to go overseas. Yeah, they didn't have anything else. There was some Hawaii orders, but a couple of the fleet returnees, they got to pick first because they were fleet returnees, and one of them he was like number 2 in the class, so he got to pick first anyways. One of the first to pick anyway. So, but all the Hawaii orders were picked.
How many divers across the Navy?
I don't know. There's probably somewhere between 1,200 to 1,400 divers in the Navy. Yeah, there's more Navy SEALs than there are divers.
Wow. So what? So you get to Guam. Do you remember what unit you were with?
Yeah, it was with Unit 1, Special Warfare Unit 1. It's not a command there anymore. They got rid of it. So we were just SEAL team support. The SEALs weren't deploying out there at the time, so we were just we did requalification guys. So really what we were for was they would do joint training exercises with all the nations in Southeast Asia. And so we had these action officers, so it was either fully commissioned SEAL officers or E7 and above chief petty officers for the SEAL teams.
Wow.
That were the action officers, and they would schedule these J sets, and then they would usually reserve SEAL team would come out, and then the SWIT guys would deploy out there. They usually had a boat team deploy out there, and they would go do these trainings with these. So like I went to Malaysia. We went to Malaysia for a month. That was pretty cool. We did 3 days of diving.
What are your official duties as a diver?
So at that command, we requalification dives. So we would just do scuba dives once a week just to make sure everybody maintains their dive quals if they're diver qualified. And then dive maintenance. We had a couple of compressors. We had, I think, about 20 sets of scuba jugs, and then we took care of 10 of the 10 draggers. We had 10 draggers. So
and maybe it wasn't that assignment, but if like the balloon goes up and we're going to war, what's your duties as a diver?
We had this thing called an oxygen transfer pump assembly. So we'd bring our flyaway compressor, our little transportable compressor with us, and we would have that. What that oxygen transfer pump assembly would do, the OTPA, was for jamming the cylinders that the SEALs would use for their dive rigs, the draggers. Yeah. And that's what we would use to jam that. So that's all I would be doing is just setting up dive gear and bringing the scrubbers and stuff and making sure that the guys set up the
at that assignment, right?
Yeah, and then while I was on Guam too, we did a lot of small boat supports. I was usually on a small boat.
Oh, okay.
4 days out of the week usually.
Well, I'm trying to think because I got a bunch of knucklehead Army and a bunch of knucklehead Air Force, and I was a knucklehead both. But they're like, well, divers are setting explosives, right? They're cutting cables. They're
Yeah,
drilling into other boats. Right? I don't know. We don't know.
The SEALs do kind of that. I mean, they're the ones that'll do like combat. Like
Well, SEALs started as underwater
demolition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
So they were clearing beach obstacles or really hydrographic reconnaissance, mapping the beaches. So like when the UDT guys went to Guam when World War II was going on,
Yeah.
the UDT guys showed up and they had to map the they had to do reconnaissance on the beaches so that way they could come up with the plan for the Marines to assault the beaches. So that was like their job, initially. And they still kind of do that, and they do that, in BUDS and first phase, a little bit. But now that it's kind of expanded, obviously, because of technology and what we do now. But but that was like their main job, And back then, World War II, there was Navy divers. When Japan attacked the fleet, it was all guys that were diver qualified that started working 24 hours a day. They were running divers 24 hours a day because they had to get the fucking boats back ready to fucking sail. We had to get them off the bottom and
they were doing
dewater them and get them.
A ton of rescue as well, right?
Yep.
Is that a different class? I mean, could you be a rescue guy if you needed to be?
So it depends. There's divers. We always have a standby diver when we're diving. Then you have the rescue swimmers. That's a little different. Those are the guys like, if a boat's sinking, the guys that fly out on the helicopters that jump in, those are like rescue swimmers. Those aren't they're not really divers.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, they're just rescue swimmers.
So how long did you stay on Guam then?
3 years.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
It was summer every day, kind of, except for rainy season. It rained a lot. We kept the dive locker at 60 degrees, so you usually had to have like a hoodie in the dive locker.
Big enough local population there to survive for 3 years?
There's an Air Force base and the Navy base is big, where I was stationed at, with the SEALs, and we had a pretty lax job. I found stuff to do. I was pretty proactive, so I ended up being in charge of the boat shop. So I took care of, we had like three or four Boston whalers. We had 6 Zodiacs. We had a 33 meter electronic like ambar rib, and then we had like 8 other ambar ribs that were made for special warfare. Plus all the motors that went with it. I ran that, and I ran all the maintenance for the dive locker. I did have a first class with me, but he kind of just let me do whatever I wanted because everybody liked me and nobody really liked him a little bit. He was a good guy. Just that he was kind of had a fleet mentality, and he kind of butted heads with a lot of the special warfare guys. It was a fun duty station. I had a lot of fun, but I made it that way. A lot of guys that went there before me
absolutely
kind of just fucked off and didn't do anything, so.
My first duty station was at Fort Polk, Louisiana. Mm-hmm. That was the funnest I ever had. It was more fun than all my other duty stations.
Yeah.
But you go out and you do stuff.
Yep.
And there are guys that are like, this place sucks.
Yeah, so I mean, like I would run coxswain training. Like I said, we were out on the boats every day, but we were running boat support for like the HSC, the helicopter support squadron that would have wet rescue swimmers. If something happened, they'd go out and rescue them. But we would do training with those guys, so we'd have to go out there on a boat and watch them like rescue each other, and then the helicopter would go get fuel, and we'd usually go get dinner or whatever, and then go back out, and then they do it at night. We did that a bunch of times, or we did a couple. One time I had to meet a submarine. They gave us coordinates. We had to meet this fucking thing. It was a pain in the ass because they were like, "Hey, we're on station," and me and like this chief that I was with were like, "We're on station too, and we don't fucking see you guys. We're just looking for like 3 antennas sticking out of the water."
Oh man!
But they ended up doing a mass swimmer lockout, which is where they open the dry deck shelter, and then they inflate their Zodiac boats, and then all the SEALs will swim out, and then they get in their boats, and then they go do it over the beach, and we just were their safety boats to safety.
Were you right or was the sub right?
We were right.
Really?
They were a little further out than they said they were. But so we went and did that. That was kind of fun. I had a Pro-Tech that I modified with night vision. We had the binocular night visions. The what is it called? Like the level 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
So we had the binos. So I was able to try and drive. I could drive the boat without having to hold binos up. And
the depth position, the depth perception is so hard in those things.
Yeah.
Especially if you're just on the water.
Yeah.
What are you looking at?
But man, we did also. I mean, we did kill house stuff with the SEALs.
What's kill house stuff?
So sometimes they would practice in over the beach, and then they would go up the jungle to the kill house. So kill house is a building that they can change the rooms and layout of the house, but essentially, and it's got a second floor that like the CO or whoever wants to watch, they can go watch it, but they essentially just practice clearing the house.
Oh, all right, all right.
So. So we'd help them with that. One time we had the George Washington Carrier Strike Group. They called us and they're like, hey, our fighter pilots want to practice bombing shit. Do you guys want to fucking help out? So I was on the Op 4. So we were out there. We were in our dually F-150, or we had like a dually F-250 as our dive truck. And I remember I had, we had blanks. We were supposed to meet like these good group of guys, but they kind of stay hidden. They stayed hidden, so we didn't really like get into a firefight. Yeah. But we had like some of us had some night vision. But you could see, like, you could hear the fighter jets flying overhead, and you could see like their IR lasers dropping down, like, like practicing, like hitting our trucks and stuff. And it was cool as shit.
Yeah.
And then a couple of times I went out and onto some like an MSC ship, and then the SEALs would practice taking the ship over. We'd usually do exercises. The Aussies, the SAS came up one time.
Whoa.
We did exercises with them. We went on a destroyer. That was some cool stuff. For 3 days. We went up to Saipan. Dropped our boats over the back end of the destroyer. That was.
Damn, it didn't sound like a boring.
No, it
duty
was.
Station,
it was
for sure.
It was a lot of fun. I did a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah. Where'd you go? Where'd you go after Guam?
So after Guam, I went to Bangor, Washington.
There's a letdown.
Yeah, they were trying to. The detailer was trying to get me to stay on Guam, but I was like, dude, I was like, I want to go someplace with their seasons. Like, I didn't join the Navy just to go to Guam and stay here. A lot of the other divers that I knew that stayed on Guam, they drink a lot, and I just didn't want to fall into that stereotype and be stuck on Guam. I wanted to go do stuff. And just kind of experience stuff. So I went to Washington. I heard good things about Washington, and then there were some spots that opened up, so I was able to.
Washington State, right?
Yep, Washington State, Bangor. So our dive locker was on the Hood Canal, is where our base was at in Silverdale. Right. Technically, we were part of Naval Base Bremerton, but we were part of the PSNS and IMF, and we were the IMF, which was off the Hood Canal. Kind of up by Silverdale a little bit.
What was your duties up there?
So we just did in-water maintenance on the submarines. Usually we were just doing hydrophone swap outs or prop cleaning inspects.
Yeah. What rank were you at that time?
I was an E5. So.
All right, so now making big bucks compared to E2, but
not
making big bucks.
I mean, I made E6 in 6 years, so I still made
that's pretty bad.
So I picked up E5 right away when I got to Guam. So.
At Guam you did E5. Wow.
Yeah, so we were E4 right out of dive school, and then the next cycle I picked up E5.
Okay, good on you, man.
So, I had a good master diver mentor in Guam. It was cool. He really liked me too. So it was cool. I liked this.
That's a rare.
Yeah.
It happens so rare. You don't appreciate it when it does. Mm-hmm. Until afterwards, you're like, God, why couldn't it have been like that?
Yeah. It was cool. I mean, even my skipper on Guam, he told me I should have put an officer. I had a bunch of officers tell me I should have put an officer package. Warrant officers told me that, but I wanted to be a master chief master diver. That was my goal. Yeah. So, and a lot of them were like, that's cool. You're an E5, you have a goal. Like, not a lot of B5s have goals. And then when I left Guam, there was a chief that I worked with, an intel chief. They read my plaque or whatever, and they said ND2 AC. And this dude came up, and I worked with this guy for like a year.
Yeah.
And he came up to me, and he's like, man, you're a second class? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, dude, you act like a first class or above. He's like, you don't act like a second class. He's like, I thought you were first class this whole time.
See, it makes a difference, yeah.
I was like, really? And then when I was in Washington, my wife had some friends, then their husbands were in the Navy, and they said the same kind of thing. I told them I was an E6, and they're like, are you serious right now? They're like,
you carry yourself well.
They're like, you don't
apparently
seem like it. Yeah. I don't know. It was. I had worked with a lot of good people too, so that helps out a lot too.
So, in Washington's when you got out?
Yeah, that's when I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And
do you want to tackle that at all?
Yeah, we can.
That's up to you.
10. I mean, we could do this again too another time.
We can do a part 2. I'm always good for stories.
Mix it in too.
Well, let's just wrap this up. So you got. You got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and they said that was medically disqualifying.
Yeah, so I spent about a year. They got diagnosed with Crohn's. So actually, all my symptoms went away after like a month, but I still did a colonoscopy, and the doctor was like, "Hey, you got Crohn's," and so I was still diving, and I never had any symptoms when I was diving, even when I had symptoms. Like when I was diving, nothing. And then so what would happen is it would feel like something was like squeezing my intestines for about 3 minutes at a time, every 10 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes at a time, every 10, 15 minutes, all day and all night. But when I was diving, never had a fucking thing.
Really?
So I don't know. But then when I get out of the water, I would start to get in the pains again. So it was just kind of weird.
You were safe in the water.
Yeah. So, but I was up for re-enlistment. I went to go re-enlist, and I was actually doing a normal physical. We had to do like a forklift physical or whatever for the command I was at, the IMF. And I was there, and I saw like it said, there's a problems little section in your medical record, and it said Crohn's disease on there. And I asked the doctor, I said, "Hey, is this an issue?" And he's like, "Oh, you should be fine." So I'm like, let me call the DMO on this. So I called the dive medical officer. Who they were like, they go to dive school also, and so they treat, they're for the submarines too, but they treat diving disorders. They're the guys that run, when you run a treatment table, that there's a diving officer there to like sign off on, because he's the medical officer too, sign off on all the treatments and stuff. And he was like, "Hey man, you need to," he's like, "That's disqualifying." He's like, "You need to get a hold of the GI." So I ended up going back to the GI and doing another second colonoscopy, and the doctor was like, "Yeah. We confirmed it. You had, I didn't have any pain or nothing, but my ileum was really swollen. I had some, or inflamed. I had some inflammation kind of, but it didn't cause me any pain.
Yeah.
And my diet was, I don't think I was still like eating or drinking like soda or really spicy foods. I was kind of eating pretty healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the the GI doctor said that, and then I told the DMO, and then that's kind of when he told me that I probably shouldn't dive after that, just because they don't, there has been a lot of studies with Crohn's and diving. That's why they it's disqualifying,
Yeah.
Because it is a pretty severe disease. It can get pretty bad.
Yeah, you don't want to, you don't want that feeling down on the
especially
water.
if you're on deployment and something happens. And I think that's the main reason for it.
It's always that. Yeah. Are you deployable or not?
Yeah, and that's the bottom line,
Yeah.
So, but I was the head coxswain, so we had a 65-foot dive boat, so I would just run coxswain training and dive, and I would dive, but I would run the coxswain training for everyone else. And small boats, I drove small boats in Washington too, all 3 years. I was in Washington 3.5 years. I ended up extending a year there while I was on the medical board. Yeah, the medical board lady was super pissed because I got my command to sign off on it like the Friday before it was due. She was like, "You're not supposed to do that." And I was like, "Well, they knew my condition and they signed off on it, and so there's nothing you can do."
So you left active duty when?
2017. January 2017. Just over 7 years.
Other than the Crohn's disease, it's not even fair to ask if regrets. Would you do it all over again? Of course, you would have never gotten out.
I would have never got out.
Yeah. Golly.
I miss it every day. Best job in the world. My favorite dive, I guess I do want to touch this before you go. My favorite dive was on Guam. I don't know if I told you about this last time.
Tell me now.
So my favorite dive, what we would do was on Guam. It was in the outer harbor. It was called the Tokai Maru. It was a Japanese troop transport ship, and during World War II, and a U.S. submarine sunk in the outer harbor of Guam. But it landed right next to a ship, the SMS Cormoran, which was an English boat. I forget what kind of ship it was. But the SMS Cormoran was sunk by a German U-boat in World War I. So you can dive down to 90 feet and you can touch a ship from World War I and a ship from World War II. So that was one of my favorite dives.
That's amazing.
Because I feel like that's the only spot in the world that you can do that. I don't think.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
That do that. So.
God, how many ships are sunk around Guam?
There was a couple tankers. It's Guam sits on a reef shelf, so once you get out of the harbor, there was just I think maybe three ships that were sunk in the harbor. They were kind of deep. Like I said, they were 100 feet down. But then once you get outside of Guam, one of the other favorite dives that we did was the Blue Hole, and there was it was like a reef kind of like sphere shape with a hole at the top at 60 feet, and then there was an opening at about 120. And it was just a coral. It was all coral. So we would dive in, and one of us would dive. One of us, that was me, my chief, or one of the other guys that I worked with at my dive blocker. We would dive down to 130 feet because that was our limit, and we just told the guys diving, like any of the SEALs that were with us or whoever. We said, don't go deeper than us because that's our limit. And we don't want anyone getting fucked up.
Yeah.
So that's what we would do, and they would bring the flag, and they would come down and take pictures and whatever.
Really?
Actually. Have you been to the VA hospital here in Denver?
I
the
guess
regional VA?
Yeah.
If you go there, they've got pictures of all the different branches. They got one for the Army. It shows a bunch of transports. Well, the Navy's got a couple pictures that have divers in them. One of them It's pretty neat. I feel like,
Really?
you know.
Oh, yeah?
But one of the pictures on there is that these guys holding an EOD Mobile Unit flag, and that's the American tanker on Guam. Is where they took that because I remember that picture being taken.
Oh, okay.
I didn't take it, you know, but I remember seeing it around.
Yeah.
But then there is another picture. It's the only branch that has multiple pictures of the same thing for that branch, you know, and it's just kind of neat that it's diving, you know.
Navy Petty Officer First Class Mike Asay.
There you go.
Thanks for taking the time, man. It was great. We're gonna have to do a part 2 because I want all the other stories, and I'd like to actually get with you on a part 2 so you can explain some of that dive physics, dive med stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating. That stuff is great.
Like
I want it. Yeah.
Best job in the world.
Mike, thanks again. It's been an honor to talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
On behalf of Petty Officer Asay, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please leave a like or a comment and share the podcast with someone else. And, as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service origin stories. So until next time, get on your feet! Dismissed!